When the lions come and they turn to fight, will you lose your soul? Will you lose your pride? 'Cause the only thing they need's to smell a drop of fear inside. Yeah. When the lions come, will you turn?
Boys and girls, we're back in black and ready for action. Welcome to the Out of the Dark series, where I come at you with a cool idea or a collection of ideas or a collection of documentaries, and hopefully we can get to the bottom of something. If not, it's all good in the hood at the end of the day. Anyway, we're going to talk about exotic animals a little bit, because this is such a fascinating subject that not many people talk about. And here, you got to understand before we get into this, my standpoint on all animals is you got to treat every animal respectfully and humanely. And I'm not a vegan, I'm not one of these weird hippie environmentalists. I'm simply saying animals need to be treated with the utmost respect because of the fact that we're the apex predator. We can mold our environment. You know, if an asteroid was to hit Earth in the next 2 years, we would be the, King Don's in charge of making sure everything happens correctly. So our responsibility is to make sure that the world around us is treated fairly. Now, exotic animals, I did not think were that big of a deal. I did not think that, this exotic animal trading was very, very popular. But these are a few statistics that I read, all right? Exotic animal trading is a $20 billion a year business, and it's very, very illegal. On top of that, there are more captive tigers in Texas than there are globally in the entire world in the wild. Just to give you some perspective. That statistic may or may not be true, because let's be real here, a lot of facts on the internet are not really facts, they're just some crazy dude's fucking opinion. But regardless, it's a gigantic business, and I have to talk about it because it's so big and it's not talked about a lot. So the fact of the matter is that there's really two sides to this argument. There are the crazy environmentalist people who say all exotic animal trading should be banned. People should not have tigers, lions, or bears, oh my, in your house. That's unrealistic. You should not have them ever, 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 ever. And I get where they're coming from. And then there's the flip side of that coin, where people are saying, okay, well, look, if you have the money, and on top of that, maybe the fact that we're buying this animal, right? Because when you're buying an exotic animal that may be endangered, when you buy it, it creates a demand for this creature, and then all of a sudden there's a priority to keep this thing alive. So then it starts breeding more, and then we start making sure that it stays alive so more people can buy it. And I understand that argument too. But I don't think either one of those is correct, because when you watch these documentaries, when you watch these animals that are kept in these tiny cages smaller than my room, and creatures that are larger than me, going psychologically insane, they're walking around in circles because they're stressed out, it's simply not okay. It's not okay to treat a tiger the way you would treat a house cat. There is a big difference between the two. And I'll just be straight out and come at you guys with as much honesty as I can. I really do believe that buying an exotic animal is okay under a few conditions. You need to have the money in order to house a gigantic fucking creature like this. If you want to buy an animal that can kill you very, very easily if it wants to, then you have to have the money to house an environment for it, right? This is an animal. This is not bred for captivity. It's not like a cat or a dog. I mean, it's a big fucking cat, and it's bred to run around and go crazy and hunt and kill shit. And when you put it in a very tiny cage, you are literally denying every single natural instinct it has, and on top of that, giving it a very, very small enclosure. That's just not okay. I do not believe it's okay to treat animals that way. So, let's pretend that I was like, king of the world for a second. I would simply say this. This is my opinion. Feel free to disagree with me. In fact, I'd love to hear your comments down below as well, just as a side note. But if I wanted to buy a lion, I think the rules should be very, very clear-cut. That it should be legal to buy a lion, but a few conditions have to be met. One, you have to have acres of land for this thing to run around in. It has to have food that it can hunt, so you have to have the money to give it large amounts of food, because these things eat a lot of meat. And you have to have the money to provide for that. And then you have to have the money to build a gigantic fence so it does not escape. And I think if all of those criteria are met, I'm okay with it. Because what happens is that when people start buying this tiger or a lion or whatever it is, and it gets a safe environment where it can still be itself, it still can, run around and enact its natural instincts, And on top of that, you know, the money can go towards, you know, better things like improving the school systems, building better roads. You know, if you make it legal, then all of a sudden, all of the money that you get from this trade goes to helpful causes. Because my problem with environmentalists and hippies that want to ban shit is that if there's a market, if there's a demand for something, rules or not, people are going to, with enough money, they're going to get what they want. And I'd rather have that money go towards a helpful cause than going to some weird fucking dealer that's going to go back to Africa and cause a lot of harm and destruction. So, in my opinion, I think it's okay, but conditions have to be met. Like, if you have kids that are under the age of 5 or 6 or whatever, then, like, you should not be allowed to keep a lion on the same property. You know, that's just very basic stuff that I think really should be implemented, but it's not for whatever reason. It's either banned or you're allowed to have one, and there's no real regulations on the type of cages that you can keep. I mean, all you have to do is shift it from an illegal setting to a legal setting, create crazy regulations. That way only people that can really afford it can get into this business. And then all of a sudden the money that goes into it goes to more helpful causes. I mean, then you get a nice positive domino effect. And on top of that, we can actually protect more endangered species because there will be a high demand for a lion or a tiger or a rhino or whatever. So then they're going to be bred more. And if you don't believe me, that's okay. If you're getting a little frustrated, that's okay. Let me give you one example. And this is a little different. This is a little bit of an offset, but bear with me here. In Africa, rhinos used to be going extinct. Their populations were dwindling, and it was getting very, very bad for these creatures. But what happened was that, you know, this big game hunting, you know, people wanted to kill these rhinos. So all of a sudden, people started, you know, fencing rhinos in. They started forcing them to breed. Now rhino populations are better than ever. Regardless of if you think hunting rhinos is okay or not, something can really be said for the fact that all of a sudden these rhinos have amazing populations. They're back in, you know, the fold. They're breeding naturally. Population is not that low. So, while I don't agree that it's okay to fence in a shitload of rhinos and then hunt them and kill them, you see where you can find the benefit. You can find the silver lining in that logic and say, okay, if there's a demand for these creatures, and if we can treat them respectfully and humanely, can we not have the best of both worlds? Can we not synthesize the ideas here and find a happy medium? Because I'm okay if you want to own a creature that will literally eat your face off because it wants to play with you, go for it, man. If you're that fucking stupid, go for it. But you gotta take into account that if you just make this shit illegal, it's going to create a black market. The money's going to go to nowhere helpful. You know, when you ban things and people want to buy them, it's never a good situation. You just lose profit. And this is just the business side of me rambling off right now. There's no reason to lose money, especially when we can do business humanely. And that's just my stance on it. I mean, you're never going to see me riding a rhino to school. That's never going to happen. I will only ever own a creature that I know that I can kill. As fucked up as that sounds, I'm never going to own an animal that I know can kill me. This is never going to happen. It's never going to happen. I'm never going to own a gigantic fucking cougar that's walking around my house, stalking my tiny little cats that I have running around. It's really, really silly. Anyways, as the apex predator, I really do believe that we have to manage these populations accordingly. We have to be the stewards of nature. And at the moment, we're not. At the moment, exotic animal trading, all it is to me, when I look at it, when I look at people putting these creatures in tiny little cages, I say, wow, you know, humans have a huge disconnect from nature. If we're capable of really just degrading these awesome animals into, you know, tiny little cages, making them go psychologically insane, all that shows me is that we are very disconnected from, you know, the world that we're very much a part of. And it needs to be fixed. We need to have a better respect for the world around us. And I mean, you can see this pervasive throughout all of our culture when it comes to, you know, taking oil out of the fucking ground and spewing it everywhere, in terms of gasoline, in terms of the air that we breathe, in terms of climate change, the fact that we are influencing, you know, climate change at a rapid rate. There's a huge disconnect from the human race and nature itself. And you need to integrate it. We need to integrate ourselves back into the world. We need to be a little bit more natural. We need to, tap into our inner hippie a little bit. You know what I'm saying? We don't need to go full hippie. No need to go full hippie or anything. No need to run around naked, you know, taking LSD saying I love everyone. But we do need to reconnect with our roots a little bit, in my opinion. And, you know, I'm not a hippie. I'm not a crazy fucking psycho person. But you see what I'm saying. A balance needs to be maintained. You can't go to one side or the other. The key is balance. And balance is not here. Balance is not in this business. We're not treating these animals in a balanced way. And it's just ugly. It's really ugly to see human nature enacted in such an awful, gruesome way. But regardless, I think this would be a legitimate solution. I think it would be really cool to have, you know, lions and tigers and shit running around in people's backyards as long as they're fenced in properly, as long as they have, you know, the right money to accommodate these things. I'm okay with it. But if they don't have the money, if they don't fit the profile, if they can't afford it, then go fuck yourself. You should not own a lion. There was a dude in Ohio who had a lion. He owned like 2 or 3 of them, and they were in these tiny little cages. I think he put 3 of them into a bus. And then they started breeding with each other, and then he had like 5 lions, and one of them ended up dying because it electrocuted itself because the fence got hit with water when there was like some weird freezer on, and the electricity just killed like 2 lions. It was ridiculous, or it was 1 lion. Anyway, we gotta put regulations in place. I mean, I'm typically against bureaucracy. I'm typically against, you know, putting more rules in place than are necessary, but this is, come on guys, this is fucking ridiculous. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this commentary. Hopefully, you know, this made you think a little bit. If it didn't, I apologize. I did my best. Anyways, take it easy, guys. Until next time, I'll catch you on the motherfucking next video. Bitches, we're out. Harmony and Havoc, follow us. That's it. Take it easy.
A drop of fear inside. When the lions come, will you turn? Beautiful mind.